It's a return line. I could use hose clamps if I needed to.
Well, that's the return.
Yeah.
Where's the feed? Oh, the feed's back there.
Well, here we go, let's get those wheels out on the road. It may get dusty, but that's the way she goes. We'll build some greasy old cars and drink our AGD. Hey, don't you know, it's Barkley built.
All right, it's a new day. We're gonna tackle new problems. We gotta get the rad mounted in here. We're gonna use this Chrysler 300 rad. And I measured it roughly from the widest points. It's roughly 30 inches. So, I don't know how well it'll show up on here because I marked it in silver marker, but I found center. I measured out from center. Made a mark. Again at the top, I found center here. Measured out, 15 inches each direction. Took a straight edge, marked them. Now I'm gonna get in here with my cordless grinder and I'm gonna start cutting. Alright, as you can see I got those plates cut out and I just took the buffing wheel and smoothed out some of the rough edges that I could. And then I just brought the vacuum over and vacuumed it out off camera. I'm going to just come with a little bit of primer and prime these edges. And then we're going to get started making the rad mounts. Alright, so there we have the rad roughly sitting where I want it to be. I was trying to come up with an idea for these mounts, but I think I've got it figured out. I'm going to take some like exhaust pipe, cut it about 1/2 or 3/4 of an inch tall, probably 1/2 inch. And then I'm going to weld it to a plate. I'm going to come across with that plate over from the support mount there. Let's take that bolt out, put the plate under it over to over to the factory mount on this radiator, and basically it'll sit pretty close to just like that. And then the only thing I have to figure out is these top mounts, which shouldn't be that hard because all I have to do is just space this away from the grill support a little bit, and then these are actually held, according to Steven, by a bolt through here. So what I'll do is I'll just come a bracket probably up and in, or maybe even a PCU channel from here up to here, and then a bolt with rubber isolator on each side, and it should be good to go. But yeah, as soon as Steven gets back with the material for it, we can get cracking on it. All right, there we have the rad sitting in here. I did have to notch out in the bottom here a little bit to get it as far forward as I could. And actually, if you look down in here, down near the bottom, I'm gonna have to just shave that a little bit, or squeak the bottom of the rad out a little. We haven't welded in the bottom mounts yet. It's just 1.5" ID exhaust tubing and some oversized washers on those factory rubber mounts. And then we just had some scrap steel that we put a few bends in, put a hole in the front here, put a hole through here, and the bottom's rubber mounted and the top is decently solid. Everything's just loose, but it's all got to come apart and be painted yet. So anyway, that is rad 85% installed. You can see here, Steven haggardly flux core welded our rad mounts in. So now, the rad install is done. All right, so today, we're gonna get started on upgrading the fuel system in Steven's truck here. We're gonna get the electric fuel pump mounted, the inline filter, and the regulator. And I think we're gonna put the regulator right here. I actually have Steven's old regulator. Here it is, regulator in line off of the Firebird. So I think I'm gonna mount it right here. There's already one hole. I just gotta drill a second one. And then that gives us plenty of line to get over to the far side of the engine for the fuel rail. So I basically just scratched the paint off with a bolt right there. Let's get started mounting the regulator. Start by drilling it. Alright, it's in there, it gives us enough room, we can still adjust it. And I mean, even if there's not quite enough room, we can always unbolt it to adjust it. Just buzz it up tight here. Alright, that's very secure. Alright, now regulator to fuel rail should be done. So now I have to get the supply and the return over to the regulator. And they're of course down on the frame just out of view of the camera here. But we got a couple of options there. I can either run braided line or what I can do is run hard line. And really hard line is always better if you can. I'll see what I got here for hard line. I might have some stuff for the supply, but the return's probably going to be, well, the return, honestly, because there's very little pressure there, you could actually run the return as a fuel injection rated rubber hose. But I think we'll probably try and hard line them both. If we end up having to use some braided line, that's good. I've got some of it, so I'm gonna get started on that now. So as it turns out, I actually have a spare chunk of hard line. That's the right size to fit that regulator. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a couple whoop-de-doos in it and get it bent around. And I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run the fuel line through the frame instead of over the frame, just to keep it away from heat sources. There's actually a hole right here on the frame, right above the A-arm, right in the opening. So I'm gonna try and run it through there, come over, come up, come over, and in. Wish me luck. And I should say I'm using the stock steel fuel lines on the truck because they're actually in very good shape. And it's just so much easier to guarantee good fuel flow by using the factory lines, because it's a lot less likely for them to be kinked from improper bending. As you can see, I reused that clamp so that they're nice and firm, and I can guarantee a little easier that they won't be rubbing on the frame, because anywhere they rub, you'll have a hole. So I put a 180 and I put a 90, but of course I didn't put the right angle to the 90. So I gotta try and give it a little bit of a twist. I said, I put this bend at the wrong angle, which rookie mistake, but I don't pretend to have done this a lot. So I think I've made it look pretty good. We'll see here when it's done, but kind of sits like that, and then we can kind of follow down. Okay, so over here I'm just figuring out the fittings and stuff to make the pump work and the filter. This is a filter out of like a 2003 Chevy 3/4 ton. Why am I using this? Because they're perfect for these pressures. We don't have E85 around here. I've never even seen an E85 station anywhere. So for regular fuel, at 50, 60, 70 PSI we're running and the amount we're flowing, this is like the perfect filter. It's $4 at Napa. All right, so as you can see, I made a new line for here. I wasn't happy with the way I bent the old one, and I was having a lot of issues with my Chinese flaring tool not holding the pipe. So, like I said, I made a new one for here. And it's shorter because I'm not happy with that kink I put in this line down here. So I'm actually going to cut it down to here. And I made a line. It'll go from here up to here. And replace it and splice the line down on the frame right about here. And then I also made the return line. I had to change the fitting where it come out of the regulator. My return line is going to sit about there.
Side note thought for you. Do you really even need 2 bolts for these damn things if they can locate themselves on the hub?
Probably not.
Hell yeah, 1 bolt life, boy. Now, here's the other thing. Like, there is no play here.
How are you going to put all those other bolts in?
Countersink them
Into that?
into this.
Okay.
As long as I can. I gotta see what thickness I got and what I can play with.
Because I thought about shortening the heads of those bolts, but you can't really shorten them much.
No, like these heads of these bolts, like they basically have to be flush with the top of this.
Yeah. Now, if you want to see a little more in-depth and up close of flaring, I have a video working on the brake lines on the Galaxy, and you can just click on the card up here in the corner and check that one out. Oh, you know what? The idiot forgot to put the fitting on.
That only happens every now and then, right?
Every damn time. All right, so now I chipped all this, well, most of the mud out of the frame here, where we need to install the fuel pump. We're gonna come from over here, and we're gonna replace this chunk of rubber line right from where it comes off the steel line from the tank. We're gonna cut this chunk of steel line out of the way, probably all the way back to about here. And we're gonna take the pump, and we're gonna use this hole here and a spacer. We're gonna mount the pump right there. Then we can put the fuel filter down here and connect it in line with the steel line. So, Steven, can you pass me a paint marker or a marker of any sort?
See if I can find one.
We will mark the fuel line roughly where we gotta cut it. Right there. And we do have a little back and forth movement here, so not a big deal if I cut it a little long or a little short to where I just had that. Get all these lines taken off the frame here. and we will cut this fuel line back here. I'm going to put these clamps back on with the without the supply line on too, so that these will be nice and supported here. Okay, now we're going to cut this zip tie. I'm just going to cut this fuel line for now, just to get this out of the way. Great. So, there we have a chunk of supply line removed. Now, I'm going to put these clamps back in. Okay, now these have these like Oetiker style clamps. They're next time get a clean truck.
Hey, this is a pretty clean truck if you ask me.
Except for all the dirt in my face and eyes.
Oh, that's in yours, not mine, so I'm not too concerned.
Maybe that's why you're supposed to wear safety glasses, eh?
Yeah, would be a probably good step.
I like how we keep buying things except for safety related. So I'm going to get this tight, then I'm going to try and show you guys the issue with these cheap Chinese flaring tools. Alright, we'll see how well you can see this. So here's the issue. We're tight at this end, tight at that end, but the jaw is spread in the middle, and then it just lets the tubing slide through and it doesn't actually flare it. So my solution for that is a vise, because why not? Just use it to put a little more clamping pressure in the center here. Trying not to mangle my line too much. And then should be able to put a nice flare in this. Problem with this big heavy vise hanging on here is it does kind of twist this line all around on a guy, but I think if we can get it straight enough, we'll be okay. So I cut my line a little too short because of the weird bend in it. I didn't have enough room, so I actually am going to have to drill a hole through the frame to mount this pump, because the P-clamp actually needs to come forward just a little bit, which isn't a big deal. There's nothing wrong with drilling through the side of your frame. You just don't want to drill through the top or the bottom flange. We will make a new hole, and this will mount really nice. Right there. Then it's just a matter of wiring it. But yeah, other than the mount I got to do and 2 wires, the fuel system is completely done on this truck. All right, now that the fuel system's plumbed, we're gonna quick run wire to the pump up to the firewall where we're gonna mount all our relays for it. So I'll quick get working on that, and then I'm going to disconnect this fuel line from the filter, and we're gonna pump out what's in the tank. All right, we're gonna see if there's anything in this tank, and we're gonna see if this pump's even any good. Should be.
Yeah, I hope so.
Ran when parked.
Ready?
Yep. Makes noise. Oh, that's gross.
Nice.
Oh yeah, you can see that on the camera, eh?
Yeah.
Yeller.
What does it smell like?
Oh, I can't smell it. My nose is full of grinding dust. Looks like frickin' orange juice coming out of here.
It looks like.
Watery orange juice.
Yeah, it does not look like nothing smell.
That's good. 2 jugs of premium in there to water it down a little,
Yeah.
and you'll be good.
There you go. So there we go, guys. Fuel tank is.
Yeah, there we go. Fuel tank is empty.
Alrighty, so that's what came out of here. You know, it's black because of the oil, but it was kind of looking like you said, Mike said, orange juice coming out of there, like you guys can
A
see.
little bit of a watered down orange juice, and it just smells like old gas.
Yeah, it just smells like dead gas. It ain't gonna do anything. So at least it probably wouldn't have done any damage. It just wouldn't fire. So yeah, there we go, guys. Now we can move onwards and finish up.
Wiring.